That sounds like
Well,
a very familiar sigh this year. Like someone saying, "How are you doing?" on a Zoom call. You're like,
I do want to go back real quickly to something that Bryan said that really kind of piqued my interest. You brought up the word relationship and how important that was for you to be able to make some of the changes that you did. So my question for all of you guys is, what were some of those resources, relationships, mindsets, whatever it was, that actually helped you to be successful in your pivots? You know, because it's more than just an idea. There's all these other parts that need to fall into place to make these things happen. What were some of those things that allowed you guys to successfully go down that different path?
Yeah, so for us, we're not an AV company. We're not, we're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So when we got into, broadcasting events, like that's a very specific, skill that we had people that were familiar with streaming and all that, but we didn't necessarily have the equipment. We didn't have the manpower. So leaning on some partners that everybody's been super gracious with time and energy, with advice. I think one thing that's really come out of this is, in a good way, the competition has gone away and everybody just wants to help. So, I've been our main AV partner. I was able to call or text him at any point in the day, and he'd give me all the time I needed in the world. He'd offer to come by and show me some pointers, and then, other partners from decor to hosting, everybody's been so great with their time and knowledge. And for us, we're more of a, organizer of all to bring together. And for this, we've been forced to be the ones to know what to do, know how to do it. And so, that's taken time, but without the help of our partners, it would have been impossible. So, more than anything, people have just been generous. And I think that's been, invaluable to us.
Yeah, it has been. I have found myself talking to a lot of other production folks that I hadn't talked to in years, just because I think we've all been so busy over the last, 6, 7, 8 years that, like Lynn was saying, you just kind of get in your track and you do your job and you're on to the next show. So this year kind of being a big reset, I've talked to some folks that I hadn't talked to in 7, 8 years. And it was interesting just to touch base and see what they're doing. And it seems like a lot of us kind of ended up from a production point of view, ended up in the same place. There seemed to talking to our clients. I know a lot of our video engineers spend a lot of time online in news groups talking to video engineers all over the country, on Reddit, wherever there's groups talking about a lot of the technologies that have kind of been under the radar a little bit, and then all of a sudden now everyone is using them. So it's really kind of propelled the industry forward in a lot of ways, and that everyone that was too busy to actually look into all this stuff in the past now has the time to go through and figure out all this remote engineering and network-based video equipment, things like that. So, yeah, it's kind of what we've been doing and seeing.
I think from the relationship side, I would just say that, I really commend Bryan for just talking through him trying things and they maybe didn't work. I think a super important leadership trait going into 2021 and beyond is just this vulnerability thing of saying we don't have it all figured out, or we failed, and these are the learnings, and that's part of what we're trying to do with the Toolkit event is be pretty vulnerable and say people hire us for peace of mind that we know all the things that need to happen for an event. And the reality is this is a new landscape, and we know a lot. Every time we did an event, we'd come up with the learnings and send the platform, a whole page of things of improvements. But I'd get on and talk about just failures and lessons learned. And, it's a big wide world. I had a planner call me from North Carolina, and she said, I heard you, share some learnings. We're 2 weeks out from our show. Can our team just call you and go through our checklist of pre-show stuff? And it was really powerful, just here they are sitting in North Carolina going, Lynn, you failed. You shared your story. Can we make sure we don't make the same mistakes by connecting with you? And I just think that's super important. The connections of having relationships that are rich enough where you can pick up the phone and say, I don't know. or it didn't work. How can you help me? And I'm super blessed to have, again, Stuart and people, Chris, everybody who's willing to get into that space and say, let's go create together and let's learn from each other. And that's pretty important in the relationship, to be able to be vulnerable. Break those walls down like competition.
You're saying you don't have all the answers for us, Lynn? That's why we
Yeah, that's true. I'm done now. See you guys. I've given all my wisdom.
I will say this, one thing that I love about the industry, and I truly do love this, is really, we have a group of people that even before this, we've been very, very much dependent in a very healthy way on one another. We've been forced to be vulnerable. And there really is a cohesiveness within the industry that I think lends to what we just talked about. And it's fun for me to hear you guys all sharing about how that, it lends yourself to really be, productive going forward. I have a question for you, Stuart, but I think it's going to go and you guys are all going to pipe in. But, right now we live in an era where there is the lockdown and fewer events, but we know eventually this will pass, right? Question for you guys, and Stuart, if you can lean into this first. Some of the changes that you guys are making, right? How does this set you guys up post-COVID?
That sounds like a very familiar sigh this year. Like someone saying, how are you doing on a Zoom call? You're like,
3 weeks ago, after 9 months in this, it dawns on me that through a virtual event, I can create a wedding show that will exist not only the day of the wedding show, but I can create a wedding show that will exist 24/7. So I can create, the carnival is always open. I can bring people in, showcase all of the resources to the, to the bride and groom. And that's the wedding industry. So for me, it's just, all of a sudden, even though I've been kind of trying to expose myself and learn, it's like all of a sudden the light goes on. I'm like, holy cow, what's taken me so long to make this pivot and this realization of what I can bring, how I can bring it to the industry in a different way. And that goes as well with the Northwest Event Show, looking at that saying, hey, how can we come forward with these resources to present these to our audience. And so the world's different. And I think there was in the hybrid sense, we're going to have an opportunity to reach more people, not only, more impactful, I think, in the in-person, because people will take that a little bit more. It's almost a luxury to be in person, whereas, you're looking on the virtual side, we can reach more people. And I'm excited about where we're going to be as an industry, but it's going to take us a while to get there. I'd like to have this conversation in a year to kind of come back and say, where are we right now
But it definitely extends the life of the content that we're producing, the experience, or even the messages that we're trying to do. It broadens the reach, it amplifies that message for the event planners, and it does have more staying power for sure.
Yeah, I want to enhance that reach word a little bit. One thing that we've experienced, just for like the corporate event side, is inclusion. The amount of people, when you have distributed teams, come their summer picnic, their holiday party, their this, that, and the other, it's hyper focused to like the local team, in the area. One thing that virtual events have done is been able to have these groups be more inclusive. We did an event where the bulk of the team, 1,200 people, are in the Northwest. They get the party every year. 2-3 times a year, they get the parties. There's teams in 7 countries. Well, this year they were able to include everybody. And that turned out to be such a positive thing for the group, for the team, for the leaders of that group. So, looking ahead at, Chris's taboo word of hybrid events, that's one area where I think they will be valuable to people. is the inclusion of everyone, no matter where they are. Because that's one thing, you can't fly people in from all over the world for a 3-hour holiday party, but they can hop on their computer at any time, and if you find a way to engage everybody, to properly plan that, like Lynn and Chris were saying earlier, that's a super powerful thing.
Absolutely. And then even giving access to people who don't have access. It hits so many different spots where we weren't able to before in the past.
What would you say, what's been your biggest learning, what you've learned in the last 9 months?
I'd say learning that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. We've had a lot of people on the team that have been doing something the same way for a really long time. And when that way is not only no longer effective, but no longer applicable, they got to evolve, and people have been, up for that. And it's been fantastic, including myself, learning these new skills, being the driving force behind them, diving in, I have no business, or over the past several months running a production studio. That's not my background, not my skill set, but the situation has forced to learn that on the fly, be confident in that. So yeah, the upskilling, I think the willingness to do so for our entire team has been a huge lesson learned, and it excites me for what comes next year, or what kind of ideas now we can open ourselves up to. Stuff that we would have never thought to tackle, 9 months ago. Now we look at it and be like, oh yeah, we could totally do that. We can make that happen. So.
Yeah, flexibility has been a really big thing for us. As an example, we originally, when we started talking about doing this event, it was supposed to be we were going to shoot it live in our studio, and, we're locked down again. So events still need to go on. We just need to have plans. We don't know what's coming around the corner. So being flexible and having backup plans and ways to make an event happen, even if everything changes at the last minute, that's been the biggest thing.
I think I can boil it down to, be bold and dive in. I really think that, trying to, what can paralyze you is trying to have it perfect. And I think if I learned anything in the last 10 years of producing startup tech events, it's, go to market and then tweak along the way. And, don't let the fear of perfection stop you from just being in. I was on a panel the other day with a gal, a meeting planner from Brooklyn. She said, I haven't done any. I'm freaked out by it. And she said, how many have you done? I'm like, 50. Maybe I'm just crazy enough. But I think when you said early, we had an event that first week in March. I think I've told this story, but 1,000-person association event at Bellevue Hyatt, and that was the week before the closure. And the venue was miles from the first case of COVID. That's how, and at the time there was not an order to not gather, but you could kind of see that coming. And the board said to us, we're going digital. And we had 3 days to go from live to digital. And I think had we known what we were being asked, I'd have been like, we don't know how to do that. And we just, that make it work mentality of we're out of shrimp. Okay, let's figure out how to make peanut butter and jelly. We just did it. And when we got done, I remember sitting in a conference room and just thinking what did we just do? We just took 24 sessions and 60 speakers and 40 vendors and 1,000 people online, and not one person was here at the hotel with us. And it was this weird realization that, and I think in the marketplace, it's do it, get in, do your first one, pick a partner, learn, tweak, innovate, create, keep going, and I do believe we're out here on the West Coast, we're in the Northwest, the Innovation Center. And there's this idea about be bold, go West, young man and woman, go do it. They didn't know what they were getting into. And this is a bit like the Wild West and the gold rush with all these tech solutions. And you're like, who gets there first? Just go, just head west. And along the way, you're going to learn all this stuff. And I think that's what I would say. Be bold and dive into it. And then you will learn. And you hear the funny, story of build a plane while you're flying it. But I believe that's what we've been doing the last 9 months, literally going, oh, it'd be really cool to have a bright rudder here. Anybody got a rudder? It seems like a rudder would be useful. We didn't start with a rudder, but that seems like eventually we're going to need to land. And so it just, that mentality of that boldness and that, let me try it. Let me get in and the workshop. And I mean, I was writing code the other day on the back end of talking about an old dog, new trick, Bryan. I mean, I'm ancient. This is not my natural hair color. And I was in there writing code and I was like, I got to back out. Like I'm way too deep in the forest right now. Like I have no business doing this, but you have to bring with this new terrain, a boldness about you that you will take on that challenge and you will agree to not know everything and the map's not perfectly laid out, but you're going to be a frontier and go for it. And, frontiers woman or man, and just try it and learn and share along the way, leverage your partnerships. If you were taking a trip west or to Alaska, you'd stop and ask directions, ask those relationships, ask those vendors. What have you tried? What do you know about this platform? Do we have anybody who can do, broadcast technical production? That's what we need. We're kind of lost in the technical land. So I really think that's the essence of what I've taken some time the last few days to think about. The biggest lesson, I think, is just to be bold and dive in.
One thing that I look at is, change can be scary, right? I think that's, safe to say. People don't really want to engage with change that much. But I'm very fortunate. I work with a lot of startups. I sit a lot in the tech space. We're here in the hub of Seattle. And it's interesting because, I look at what the changes were made. And to me, it was something that was inevitable. Whether COVID took us off course or not, this is where we were going to be heading regardless. And I think a lot of us are starting to figure that out. The thing is, it was such an immediate stoppage and an immediate pivot that made it a little bit more disruptive and a little bit more painful than it probably should be for most. But one thing that I look at is like, if this never took place, 2 years or 3 years down the road, even hearing you guys talk about the new value that you guys are finding because of these platforms with inclusivity and getting, 1,000 people to an event where they wouldn't be able to do so. I think we always need to keep in mind that, to be honest with you, the events industry has been making these changes for hundreds of years, really, right? It's just the speed and the technology and incorporating those changes is just more frequent going forward. Going back to Chris's point, being more adaptable and being more flexible. So I think there should be some comfort in saying, yeah, this is just part of the process. It's just we're speeding up the gaps. The time frame between changes is just shorter and shorter. I'd like to close it up a little bit. You guys have been an amazing panel, but what I would love to do is have each one of you guys, as we go around, just give one piece of advice, one takeaway for people listening to help them to make it through this little storm that we're going through. Chris, put you on the spot.
Yeah. I think it just goes back to what I was saying earlier about just think about what your attendees are going to see on the screen, because everything's on the screen right now, and you really just want to focus on the content and what you're doing to make it engaging. Everyone's been sitting through virtual events for 9 months now. Like, how are you going to be different? How are you going to make people sit around? I say this all the time. Netflix is a keyboard, like a mouse button away, so it's really easy to lose people. So you just have to be engaging and work with your partners, come up with ideas, go watch some TED Talks. TED Talks have been a great example of a group that's been doing basically live events forever and doing a really good job. So you can learn a lot from a lot of those groups that have been doing this stuff for a long time. So,
keeping the attendee in mind, looking at things through their lenses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everything we do is about the attendees, right? So, we do all the technical stuff on the back end, but what are they actually seeing?
But that's a good reminder when we don't get to see the attendees. I think that's the hard part, right? We don't have it. So, what about you, Bryan?
I'd say, there's a lot of people in our industry that maybe their specialty doesn't translate completely to a virtual event, or they just don't have the skill, the resources to fully go that way. So what I would say for those people, I think is most important is find people's problems, find how maybe not your product that you offer, but your skill set can answer or provide a solution. And for those people that maybe haven't found a way to pivot yet or are stressed out, one thing that I tell my team before our live productions is it's something I learned through meditation. Like, everybody has the power to start fresh, like that very instant. You don't have to wait for 2021. You don't have to wait for the end of the pandemic. You don't have to wait for next month, tomorrow, an hour from now. Like right now, if you're feeling stressed out about, I haven't found my pivot, I haven't found my solution, right now, do it. Start fresh, let go of all the rest, and find your move. And, I think have fun, don't be hard on yourself, love yourself, and, make it through.
And what about you, Lynn?
I think that, self-care is always been something I think that we're hard on ourselves in this profession, and now more than ever, like Bryan said, we need to, take care of ourselves. But I'm also been an athlete my whole life, and I really believe in the, not get ready, but stay ready. And I think there's something to that mantra around stay ready. A bit of this right now is the off season, get in the gym, do the work, do the research, attend events like Chris, get skilled up in tech events, take the time in this off season a little bit to refine your skills and to sharpen your mind and to innovate and to challenge your creative thought. I've been taking time, an hour every day over this break. I'm trying to unplug, but I've been taking an hour to just say what could hybrid events look and feel and sound like. And so I've been creating quite a list of ideas that I would like to try. Like I said, dive in, right? I got some things on there that are whack, and I'm like, this is the stay ready exercise of exercise your mind around the creativity of what could happen. What if? Ask those questions. What if we tried this? Or what if we had, remote office, hybrid little satellite hub and spoke events where people were gathered in small groups, part of the events industry. And then what we cannot create digitally that we do live is this special sauce of interaction. And so as we go back into this gathering, if you have a group of 1,000 people in a ballroom, it's hard to find an intimate conversation. If we were to break this down and have 10, or 110 people events, what a rich one-to-one live experience that would be to stream and hear some thought-provoking stuff and then dig in with these people. So those are the kinds of things that my wheels are turning right now. And so I guess that's what I would say is, be kind to yourself if you don't know everything. It's hard right now. It's such a hard time for everybody in every way. So do the care and feeding of what you need to be kind of bring in your full self. And then secondly, open up those creative doors and spend some time thinking about what if.
There's definitely a lot to learn right now. I mean, you can always engross yourself in learning at what's new and what's coming up. Okay, do you want to bring us home, Stuart?
Sure. I think probably the takeaway from me is this is a process. It's not quick. It takes time. But the thing that's helped me the most is conversation, is continually finding great people to have conversation with. You expand yourself when you have conversations, listening to people, listening to the, I'm so fortunate to have the relationships that I do, but LinkedIn has been an amazing opportunity to reach out and just finding people of different mindsets, and just it's a continually learning process and trying to find what's needed, what the market needs. But I feel like we're coming through. It's taken, this is our third disruption that we've been through, and every time we ended up coming out stronger. But it takes time. It takes looking back at our other pivots that we've had. It's taken years to fully get through it and for that acceleration. So that would continue to have the conversation.
And I would just dovetail that because I believe that conversations are the catalyst for amazing things to happen. And that's one of the things we're trying to do here is just bring people together, bring these insights, bring these thoughts, bring these sharings, just have a conversation because so much amazing things come from it. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today, being a part of the conversation. I know the audience is lucky to have the opportunity to be a little fly on the wall and kind of hear some of the ideas that we're bouncing back and forth. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
It's fun.
Perfect. And have a great day, everybody.